Here we go. Ryan's power went out again, but you know what, Jeff? Today, really, it's interesting. So I've got an opportunity. I'm speaking this afternoon to a bunch of young adults, and we're talking about opportunities and how to identify opportunities, how to create opportunities in your life. And over the last week, since I've been really developing this specific presentation, I figured, you know what? We can all have conversations about opportunity. We can all understand how to create a good opportunity and what might be a bad opportunity. And that's what we're going to talk about today, brother.
Awesome.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
And there's Lisa again this morning. Still, for months now, been right on top of that.
Seems
right
like years.
And,
Seems like years.
double whammy today. So yeah, it was as I started developing this presentation, because it was one where the gentleman had asked me, he says, it's kind of like one of these things where how does a young person that's looking to get where they want to go, how do they really understand opportunity and what is an opportunity, right? So as I was putting all of this together, I thought, this isn't just young adults, because as I'm putting it together, I'm realizing very early in my career, even into the middle of my career, I was falling victim to some of these things when it comes to opportunities, right? Because how many of us are like, oh my God, yeah, I'll take that. And we're on this mission to this one specific goal. And all these individual opportunities actually pull us off course. And we think, well, actually, we don't think, and that's the problem, is we just, we got it. Oh, it's another business, another opportunity. We go. And I started looking at it and saying, oh my Lord, how many times have I done that? And then the second part of it is I realized probably about 15 years ago, there's two opportunities in life. And that's it, from my beliefs. One are life-shifting opportunities. This is like business, an opportunity to go somewhere you've never been before. It shifts the way you think in life. And then there's perspective opportunities. And what I mean by that is, the best possible example recently that I can give for that one is, when I got diagnosed with cancer, we had to drive about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to the hospital. So that's 3.5 to sometimes 4.5 hours in the car every day for 7 weeks. And that's downtown Toronto. So it's like crazy traffic, idiot drivers, asshole drivers, like all of the above, right?
Yeah.
And when you first look at that, like first when they told us, I was like, no, you got to be freaking kidding me. No way. I mean, that is just a nightmare. Nobody wants, like, I don't know how people do it. I'm a country guy. I'm not a city folk, and all these things start coming up. And then I realized if I had a opportunity perspective shift, it's time for my wife and I to have really uninterrupted conversation.
All right.
It's time for us to be silent with each other and just enjoy each other's company. It's time for us to we did sometimes, I'll be honest, make jokes and make fun of people on the road and that kind of stuff. We did that for sure. So we created opportunities, right? Like we had to go every day for 7 weeks. So why are we going to go every day for 7 weeks? And like that opportunity perspective shift, calling it an opportunity. Well, now I can hang out with my wife and have great conversation that's uninterrupted from business, uninterrupted from kids, uninterrupted from dogs. Like, let's be realistic, right? Dogs got to go out, they got to come in, then they got to wipe the feet, then they got to be fed, then they got to go out again. And all. So there's all these daily things that we have. And that perspective can be shifted by creating an opportunity for something else. Does that all make sense so far?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that perspective that you're talking about, it could be a bad one or a good one. It's your choice to do so in that moment, right? I mean, because you're going, to the cancer clinic and you could just be down and out and just be moping around the car, not having any kind of discussions, or you can make it a positive one, change that perspective of what it is right now and change it to the other side and have those rewarding conversations that you mentioned, with your spouse or whomever it may be. It doesn't necessarily mean it could be on a phone call, it could be anything besides what you're facing to change that whole perspective of what you're dealing with. Absolutely.
And it's so Lisa says, I have an opportunity to go to Africa. Perspective. And you know what, Lisa, I would say that would actually be oh, there we go, Jeff's back. That would actually be both, because going there can actually shift the way you think about life as well. So that might be a dual opportunity where it might be a perspective shift and a life shift. And perfect example, I'll go back to the cancer. That was a life. I now have a new opportunity in life because of what I went through. Right. And for me, I look at it and I say, it's a shame that these massive things in our life have to happen, loss of a loved one, getting something like cancer ourselves, or having an injury that brings you to the brink of death and then you come back, or for us to have that fire lit again. I can share when I lost my brother, it was one of these things where I said, you know what, Ted, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of, and did it. And for years I was on fire, and then that kind of waned. And then, you come back up and you go through these roller coasters of life. But those things in life actually create opportunities for us to be a better person, right? Yes. You have an argument with somebody, or you have an argument with a friend, or you have a relationship that ends poorly. That's an opportunity to make yourself better. Yes. And I don't care if it's I didn't do anything. It's an opportunity to make yourself better, because there's always two sides. There's always two, it takes two to tango kind of thing. Pretty much. I really think this idea of opportunity, if we start injecting it into our everyday language, I really think it can change so much in our lives, so much. Because really, like, let's talk about life-shifting opportunities for a second, right? A life-shifting opportunity can actually be one that takes you away from your goal, right? So we have to be very careful about those opportunities that we perceive to be life-shifting, right? Perfect example for us in logistics would be, we have an opportunity to work with a customer that's got a lot of freight, right? A lot of freight. And you're thinking, man, this customer is going to be good. We don't qualify and we don't understand. All of a sudden, 97% of our time is taken up with this one customer, right? Not only that, they're wheeling and dealing on every rate we give them. We've got a lot of freight, so it's a big book of our business. We've allowed this person to integrate and become 80% or 70% of our business. And I know there's a lot of you sales reps out there where one customer is about over 50% of your business. It's very common in our industry. Yep. That's actually not an opportunity. That's actually a very big liability. And say if your goal is $1 million GP, if 97% of your time is spent with that one customer, that customer is actually not an opportunity to help you get towards your goal. Now, can they become? Sure, if you maneuver and switch and shift that time period around. Because if 97% of your time is spent with the one customer, there's no room to court or bring in new customers or develop new business, because this customer is taking up all of your time. Yeah. Right. And so those opportunities aren't actually opportunities to get you where you need to go, right? Another opportunity, another one where some people might say, you're at a company and your goal is $1 million GP, and somebody says, hey, would you become like a VP of sales? We can put you on the manager track, and you can watch these 7 salespeople. Right now, some might be like, oh man, yeah, okay, I don't want the $1 million GP anymore. I want to be a manager. But if you wanted the $1 million GP, you wouldn't take that opportunity, because it will never let you get there. Do you know what I mean? So there's those opportunities that aren't really helping us get where we need to go. They would help us move and shift our track that we would go, right? Because some people might have this $1 million dream and then realize, you know what, I'm not really cut out for this long term. I'd rather be a manager, right? Then their goal shifts. That becomes a great opportunity for them, right? Have you ever had these situations, Jeff, where you've been kind of going towards one goal and you've seen opportunities and actually either took them and then realized shit, that's kind of like yeah, it was a bad decision. Let's go back to it. Or before you took it, it kind of hit you that, yeah, if this is my destination, it's going to be tough to get there here with this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is adversity, right? We all face adversity every single day. Like you with your cancer, didn't know that was going to happen. It happened, so now it's an alterating shift in your life that you didn't even expect, because you're off in this direction, and all of a sudden now you're pulled in this direction. But now you have to figure out a way to get pulled back to your goals, to start getting into that focus. Very, very hard and difficult in a situation like yours, right? Because your mind's just thinking all over the place. So it's the same with like a customer. And when you think about the time that's spent, and then you start analyzing it, going deep into it and saying, okay, I'm making X amount of money, but I'm spending this amount of hours in it. Should I continue going down this path and losing all this valuable time that I could be spending on either prospecting or other customers that have better rewarding possibilities? Every time you talk to them, they give you a load or something like that, in the best case scenario. So you have to really think about that. And yes, that has happened to me, where I thought that things were going to be like peachy keen, man, this is great, this is going to happen. And then you keep working it, and you keep working it and working it, and it doesn't come to fruition,
Or it comes to fruition and it's not what you had thought it was going to be, or what it was explained to you that it was going to be. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, the parameters just changed here. This is no longer an opportunity for me to get where I want to go. It's no liability in my way.
Yeah, that's part of it as well. You have to try to identify that sooner rather than later, because later the water is over the dam, it's in the ocean, and it's lost time that you'll never get back, right? So if you have a big portfolio, it's awesome to look at that on a monthly basis, to see the profitability of the accounts and what you're working on, and what seems to be going in the right direction, and then what's going in the wrong direction, and then shifting that focus from one area to the other. That will help you get to those goals and achieve what your objectives are. Because every week, everybody has, I would think anyway, has certain goals and objectives that they would love to hit. Like even like you said, $1 million GP, right? So those are the things that you have to really sit down and think about. Everybody wants to make money. That's why we do what we do, right? But there's a little bit more thought process in that, besides getting a load here, and how you can build that positivity up and get that shift going into the right direction. It's very difficult. It's because you're afraid to let something go, because you've got something. You don't know what the future is going to bring. You hope that it's going to go in the right area, and you go by that gut feeling, right? And then you leave that one alone. And it's like, sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. So
yeah, and it's also, as you're selling and as you're prospecting, it almost becomes this autopilot where sometimes you lose, not lose, you neglect the essential pieces of identifying, is this prospect an opportunity for me to get closer to my goal? Because there's only two options, right? You're either getting closer to your goal or further away from your goal. So I look also as a review. Like every week I sit down on Sunday and I say, okay, what does my week hold? Right. And what in this week is no longer relevant to my goals? Because things shift, things happen, things move, right? And I might have booked an appointment this week a month ago. And a month ago, it was in line with where I was going, but now it's not. For whatever reason, maybe I'm beyond that point that this meeting would have added value or something, or beyond the point where I could have added value to this meeting, or whatever it is. So there's that slight shift in everything we do. And I honestly think if we're not reviewing at least once, if not twice to 3 times our week, our goals for that week, our goals for that day, I think we're missing out on huge opportunities. Because I've always believed, and I'd love your take on this, Jeff, I don't believe in luck. I think the people that work hard and are consistently focused on their major outputs are the ones that seem lucky. They're the ones that have these all almost like unreal opportunities come to them, right? You know, in sales, the person that's consistently prospecting, consistently got a full pipeline, consistently going to meetings, consistently doing all of these things are the ones that seem lucky. And I'll give you a perfect example. I had a buddy of mine during the 08, 09, like just economy collapse, right? He was
Yeah.
in trailer sales. Now, if you remember 08, 09, it was like the worst for trucking companies and brokers. It was a horrible 2 years.
Horror show.
Yeah, horror show. Um, his company was like orders canceled and everything. And he said, okay, now's an opportunity. I'm not stuck in the office with paperwork. I have more time on the road. So what he did is he created a schedule and he said, these, I'm on the road. I'm booking all these 2 days that I'm in the office. I'm booking the 3 days that I'm out of the office for the next week. And he did this for a year, close to 2 years straight, every week, without a doubt. And he created a plan and he worked that plan. And the next year, he was like the number one trailer salesman in North America for his company. And
Nice.
you know, you go back and a lot of them were like, man, how'd you get so lucky? And he was like, it's not luck. Like, while every other guy was out on the golf course or they were doing this or they were, you know, I am not coming into work today. I'm going to hang out with, you know, he had a plan and he worked that plan. And that, I believe, is where this idea of luck or the right timing comes in, right? Like, come on, let's face it. In sales, there are accounts that come to us because we call on the right day. And that traffic manager just happens to be pissed off at his incumbents or something's just happened. But if you didn't have a plan and work that plan, you would have never made that call. It's not luck that you just picked up the phone at 9:18 a.m. on Thursday, October 27th, and called Jeff and got the deal. It's because you've been calling Jeff for X amount of time at 9:18 a.m. or in that between 9 and 9:30 a.m. and you've created that opportunity. And again, that's the creation of the opportunity. And then once you create that opportunity, there's two opportunities. By you calling Jeff, you can either have a life shifting opportunity or a perspective shifting opportunity, right? Now, as I'm speaking to you, Jeff, and I'm trying to figure out, how you're set up, what you're doing, do I fit? Where do I fit into this puzzle? How can I add value to this puzzle? I can have an opportunity where perspective, where, you know what, the way I approached that probably wasn't the right way of approaching it. Great perspective shift. I'm going to try this. Or, hey, Jeff's got a lot of business. We see eye to eye. We're congruent beyond all belief. And my gosh, I think we're going to get business going. That's a life shifting opportunity, right? I can remember when I first decided I wanted that $1 million goal, and I got it landed in the customer, and they started bringing in 30 G's a week, and 30 G's a month, and I was like, wow. Like, we're talking $360,000 a year this customer's bringing in. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm like, yeah, but they were taking up all my time. And for month 1 and 2, I never realized it. And then month 3, I'm looking at my numbers and I'm looking at the customer. And this one customer is pages. And then there's like 2 pages of other customers. And I'm like, okay, this opportunity got me closer to the $1 million mark. However, the tentacles that come off that opportunity are bogging me down. And I really started looking at it, Jeff, and I said, okay, is this account a real opportunity? And I identified it as yes, but I didn't have it set up properly where it would take up 5% of my time instead of 95% of my time, right? So even inside these opportunities, we have to keep that mental focus on where that next step is to build that bridge from where we are to where we want to be, right? And every rung in that bridge is an opportunity taken. And I really honestly think if we as salespeople consistently think through those opportunities, and then think through the setup of the opportunity and think through the time constraint of the opportunity. Like I look at it and I say, so for yourself, every opportunity, let's evaluate it on 4 criteria. So one is self, right? Does this help you, help yourself, help your family, help you get where you want to go? And rate it from 1 to 5. Right. And we said, okay, yeah, it'll help me get where I want to go. Is there some things I got to tweak inside of it? Yeah, for sure. But it's going to help me get where I want to go. Okay. So we realized, okay, for ourselves, where we want to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, this is a great opportunity. Okay. So that's number 1. And then as we start looking at it, it's okay. So now we got that one. Now, what about the social aspect of it? And what I mean by social is, okay, is this going to help me maybe become more present for other prospects? Is it going to be an opportunity that I can use in my marketing, in my sales conversations and all that kind of stuff? So that's another aspect of it that I really think we need to identify, because if we're able to get, have you ever Start With Why, where Simon Sinek says, you got to get the one cool kid on the bus, right? And if you get the one cool kid on the bus, then so many other people fall. That's the idea of social, where it's like, okay, can I use some of these opportunities or some of these things where I've added value into my marketing that can help Jeff see, oh, wow, you know what? That might be able to help me too. Right. And so we rate ourselves on these, right? And then when we look at that, we say, okay, we're rating ourselves on these opportunities. So right now we've got ourself. Does it match us? And that comes with time and all that kind of stuff. And we got our social part. And does that make sense so far, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you thinking so far?
Well, to get back to what you were saying about luck, I think it's timing, not luck, but it's timing and being in the right place at the right time. Now you were talking about, checking your customers, prospects every week, maybe 2 or 3 times, right? Here's what I found out.
No. Schedule.
Oh, schedule. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not necessarily. And that doesn't necessarily mean just prospects. Like schedule. Like I have meetings throughout the week where people connect with me and they say, hey, listen, this is something that's happening. I noticed you might be able to help me. Can you help me? I'm like, sure, let's schedule 30 minutes. And this could be, perfect example is over the last 6 weeks, I've been like, I would love to help. Unfortunately, I'm not in a physical health position to be able to do it right now. Can we push it out for 6 or 8 weeks? And some people have said, well, I really need it taken care of now. And my response was, I'm really sorry. I just wouldn't add the value right now that you're looking for. So in that case, I would rather not do it. Right. Like this speaking event I have this afternoon, it was supposed to be last month. And I had said last month, I said, I won't, I got to speak for an hour. I said, I just physically can't do it. And it's not that I don't want to, and it's not that I don't think I can add value, but I don't think I can add value being up there going and spitting into a jug. And, this, I just don't think I can do it. Is it going to be difficult today? 100%. And I know it's going to push me to my limits, but I'm excited for the opportunity. Right. I'm excited to share these stories and strategies with young adults that are just coming up in the world, because if I can shave 1, 3, 5, 10 years off of from them not taking opportunities that are actually stretching them thin, instead of making them solidifying that just tunnel vision towards their goal, then I can add that value. And I'm ecstatic, and that creates a legacy point, and that helps them then tell their kids when they have kids that, okay, you know what I mean? And then it just keeps going. But at certain points, we're unable to add the value we want to add. And so that's where I say, really review your agenda, right? Like that meeting with the customer, right? That meeting that you set up last month with the customer. How prepared are you for it? Right? Like, are you just walking in blind? And it's not just moving things. It's looking at your week and saying, okay, I have this here. This is huge, which means I got to take from here over to gather all the information. Now, I'm better to take it from here over, because if I do it here, so say it's a Thursday and I do it on a Wednesday, or I say Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, something in the operation, something in the sales system breaks. Now you're like, holy shit. Like, oh my God, right? So again, and that's what I'm talking about. So you're strategizing for your week. And that's when you might say, this conversation with a fellow colleague needs to be moved. Yeah. Right? Where we'd set up, like, for example, you and I set up lunch on Wednesday, hypothetically. And then I got this thing on Thursday. I mean, it's okay. I can't do lunch with Jeff on Wednesday. I'm going to have to move that to next week, because I'm going to take Tuesday to do all my setup for Thursday. Then I can just do an hour review Wednesday. And worst case scenario, Wednesday, if I get caught in business, I can do it at night. An hour review at night for this big presentation, right?
Yep.
I can take my presentation, I can look in a mirror, and I can walk through the whole thing in a mirror, and we're good. So that's another strategy, that when we're looking at those opportunities, so we create an opportunity not to get stuck without having the time to practice for what's going to get us to that next level.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it definitely makes sense. And when you have a prospect in your corral, in your pipeline, we're talking about spending time and whether or not that time is being spent wisely. Sometimes you really have to dig in deep, because what you think isn't a really good opportunity will be a good opportunity a week or two later on. You might cut yourself out short because it may not come to fruition today, but you're not really asking the proper questions to see how far out that opportunity is going to bloom. Because if you happen to make that choice and saying, I'm just spending too much time with this, I'm not getting anything in return, and now you shut the pipeline down, sort of speaking, and now you're focusing in another area, all of a sudden that opportunity is gone, and it could have been a $6-7 million opportunity, but you chose not to do it because nothing was developing at that time. So you have to be very careful in analyzing who you're working with, why you're working with, or do they fit in your niche? When do you think this? It's all questions, right? You have to ask these questions. Oh, you're ramping up. Oh, you got a new project. You got all this. So you have to keep that in mind when you're building those schedules, to try to touch base with them, to help them along with it, because it's worth that time. But don't cut yourself short on something like that. You really got to think. It's not as easy as turning off the water in the pipeline and saying, okay, I'm going down this channel now, because it could be a bad move, but you just don't know it at the time. So it is about all scheduling. It is about timing, time spent well. I mean, you have to figure all this out, and it does come down to scheduling. And analytics too, you can't really look at analytics on a weekly basis, because things change week by week by week. So you should do it at the end of the month. At least I do, because now you can see what's happening, and it's kind of predictable, right? You can see what's going to happen because there's like a trend. There's something happening.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point when you talk about analytics, right? And tracking. I remember when I was training a bunch of salespeople, what I did is I put together a pretty extensive spreadsheet. And every Monday morning, I went in and I saw all the new customers that salespeople brought in, how many calls they made, how many quotes they did. I kind of saw all of that. And what I did is I started plugging the information in. And what the segments of information did is it started narrowing out call to close ratio, time between calls versus close, revenue based on calls versus close, revenue per call, because I added it all in. And I just kind of, I said to myself, I want to keep this information for me to see if there's inspiration behind it for salespeople. And it turned out to be one of the greatest things I ever did, because I created opportunities for salespeople. So they come in my office and go, you know what? I don't know, Dan. I mean, I'm cold calling everybody, and I don't seem to be getting anywhere, right? Because that's how we are as salespeople. We can close 5 accounts this week, and in 3 weeks, if we don't close any more accounts, it's like, what's going on? What's wrong with me, right? The head starts playing games. And I remember sitting down with this one gentleman. He was like, and I said, okay, well, let me show you something. So I pulled up his section, and I said, you're a 210 call to close. I said, every time you close an account, your revenue raises by 8% on average. Every time you close an account, your revenue per load raises by 6%. And he looked at it and he went, wow. So that was a major perspective shift that created a life-shifting opportunity, because now he saw the power in sticking with his plan. Yeah. Whereas sometimes, like, you don't remember how many calls you made a month ago, exactly 30 days ago, how many calls you made. Like, we just don't. We can't figure that out. But when we document it and it starts to show something, there's huge power in that. Huge power in it.
It also changes your approach, right? Because of the analytics. Like you said, it's taken you 210 calls to close one deal. However, if you tweaked it a little bit and you're still doing the analytics behind it, hey, you made this change. Now you're closing in every 150. Mm-hmm. Now you're your fifth, and you're starting to come down. And instead of being up here, you're coming down here. And now, you're getting better at your niche. You're developing, where you want to spend most of your time, because those analytics will tell you, okay, I'm calling in this area and it's not developing. And all of a sudden you're going through all these verticals and you're doing that. All of a sudden you see that one vertical that sticks out more than any other ones. It's like, that's where your meat and potatoes is. That's where you should. And then you start tweaking in that area. And that's where you start defining your niche, your prospects, who you want to go after, and you stay in that lane. Because every time you convert and go and get sidelined, you know what's going to happen. And that's what analytics is so good about it, and looking at it every single week and seeing what's happening in there and having a talk with your sales manager or sales director or whatever. Hey, you know what? And then they give you those ideas and you start implementing them and things start changing, but it all comes within here too, and how you feel about making these phone calls, why you're making
it. You got to be dedicated and you got to really want it, right? Like I've always said, you can be motivated to do anything, and that's not really going to get you very far. It's when your goal gets a hold of you and you get inspired, where like you can, I know for me, when I'm doing anything related to high performance logistics or my software or anything,
get pumped.
I could work for 10 hours and not even realize, like no food, no water, no nothing, just go to town and enjoying the process and not even realizing. That's inspiration over motivation. And maybe that's a topic for next week, but
yeah.
Jeff, great chat, buddy. That opportunity, I love chatting about opportunities. It's great. Yeah, and you know what? Thank you. You opened my eyes a lot about the analytics and everything involved in opportunities. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. No problem, sir.
So tomorrow, wins and lessons. I'm wondering if our good friend Ridley's going to join us. Maybe we'll have to get on there.
I'll give him a call
a little bit. Yeah,
I'll give him a call. I'll pressure.
Let's harass him a little bit. Yeah. Where are you talking today? Oh, I'm actually speaking to it's in Milton, and I'm speaking to a group of young adults on opportunities and how to find opportunities and filter through opportunities. So it's going to be actually really cool. It's with an equestrian group. So it's going to be super cool. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be in a big barn. And just, it was one of these things where originally when it was brought up to me, I'm like, I don't know, what is it for? And it was for a group of young people. And I'm like, you know what, let's do it. And it happens to work with the timeline, and it happens to work with the fact that I got to start pushing myself. As much as I'm relaxing, I do have to start pushing myself, because I'm never going to get any further ahead if I don't test my boundaries, understand where it is, draw the line, and then try and jump past it tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you what, if my daughter was up there, she would join you, because she would
definitely
love to talk about that kind of stuff.
Anyone under 40s and allowed.
Oh yeah, man, that's awesome. I was going to ask you whether it was logistics or supply chain related or some other.
It is not. The sponsor is supply chain, but I mean, it might be. It depends on the crowd. There might be logistics, and and it's kind of open. So the way I had to See, normally a lot of my presentations are filtered specifically to logistics, like Inception. All my programs are
Right.
specific to logistics. So when
That's
we talk
why
about opportunities, we can sit down and talk about, getting an account and. So I kind of had to baseline it,
Yeah.
which was an opportunity for me to rethink a lot of my frameworks. And
Right.
like, oh, wow, that, because when I develop these frameworks, when I develop every single framework, I don't develop it from a general sales perspective. It's always specific to our industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's the industry I'm in. So
Right.
if I wanted to be a general sales trainer, then I would develop in general. But I'm a logistics sales trainer, so I'm very specific. And it's funny because it created huge opportunities for me mentally, both from a perspective and from an ultimate shift. When I was like, wow, hey, that little tweak and this framework works for everyone.
Yes.
And it was like,
Yeah, that's what
wow.
I was going to say. That's what I was going to say to you. It's about the opportunities. It's about self-development. It's about having the positive mindset in order to move yourself forward to reach your personal goals and objectives. And equestrian is being an equestrian, because I've had years in it with my daughter. It's that mindset, that positivity, because there's so many failures in it. When you take a hard hit and you fall off the horse and you don't want to get back in the saddle again, that's what it's all about, is setting that mindset, creating those goals and objectives, and how to get yourself self-motivated in order to hit that. So what you're doing definitely can be used in different verticals, in different environments, for sure, because it's relatable. It's definitely relatable.
It's one of the first things I'm going to share with the group is, I appreciate, because this opportunity has given me
An opportunity,
a greater insight into the overall larger opportunity that my training can bring. And
absolutely.
so, I mean, listen, I won't by any means in any short period of time be becoming a general sales trainer, because I do believe logistics, I believe our industry is the greatest industry on the planet.
So do I.
I really do. And I do believe we're probably the worst industry for professional salespeople. It's just what it is. I believe we still have there's still a very big persona of snake oil salespeople in our industry. And I want to change that. And I truly want to help 10,000 people design the life and business they truly want by helping them get to $1 million GP a year. And if you're in the 30-40% margin, you're making $300,000-$400,000 a year. You can do a lot of things with your family and have a really good life. And so many salespeople, before I created this, like before I really got into this, this is like what I want my legacy to be.
Right.
A lot of salespeople were like, there's no way. Like, I just don't have the skill to do $1 million. And I said, well, you're wrong. If you have the desire, I could teach you the skill, because it's fairly easy. It's just the desire. And as well as I do, in our industry, it's very unfortunate, but so many people keep so many things close to their chest. Right. I remember when I was at a very large brokerage company, and I remember going to the number one salesperson in the office and, okay, what is it that you do differently? And he wouldn't tell me. He's like, well, it's kind of my secret. I'm like, okay, well, talk to me. Tell me. Like, I'm inquiring. No, wouldn't tell me. I went to the second, and I think at that time I was the fourth, and it was only the third guy that said, well, here's what I did. But the first two held it so close. It's like, if you ever worked in a company and you go to somebody and say, hey, I got freight out of Texas. Yeah, I know you moved freight out of Texas. Like, well, I don't know if I want to give you my carrier, because the perspective is I give you the carrier, I don't get the trucks.
Right.
So the perspective from a lot of the salespeople is, if I tell you my secrets, then they're not my secrets. In other words, I'm sorry, I've walked through my strategy tens of thousands of times with people. Every time I walk through it, I'm like, oh, I could put that one little piece in. Oh, that might make all the difference in the world. So as we talk through our strategies, they become more powerful to us. Yes. And it's crazy to hold it in. The more you add value to everyone around you, and you go back to the good old Zig Ziglar. You want to get where you want in life, help as many people as get where they want. And that's the strategy of sales and logistics. You have to help your customers get where they want to go, not just move freight for commission.
Nice.
Right? You move freight for commission, you're losing opportunities to get customers where they want to go, to turn customers into raving fans.
Yeah, and you know something, you're preaching something, Dan, that's so close to my heart. As you know, I started up this new association called the North Jersey Association of Supply Chain Logistics Luminaries. Not a club, not a traffic club, and this is exactly why I built it. It's about mentoring, coaching, and developing young people, as well as people that have been in the industry, to fine tune it where you can interact with multimodal people in certain verticals all over the place. It's not about trading cards and stealing customers or anything, but it's about best practices and trying to understand how and where you interact with each other. It will develop a better way of doing business, not just for you, but your fellow shipper, your fellow representative, competitor, whatever it might be. It's not going to be a good old boys club. We're having our first meeting on Tuesday. I'm in Fairfield, New Jersey, and I've got board members and really good people that are going to help other people. That's what it's all about. That's the legacy that I want to give back. I'm not holding anything in. I want to help develop the next, generation that's coming in. And, Smeal Business School, right? From Penn State, logistics, supply chain. These kids come out of school, they're wet behind the ears. They want to get into supply chain, anything. We're not charging them membership. Their first year is free. They come in, they get to talk to these mentors to understand the industry more so that we can help them get their foot in the door and help them build their career in where they want to go in. Because, in supply chain and logistics, there's so many different avenues that you can get involved with. We want to help them make their own decision on what fits them best, so this is
not
great.
only that, if you train them properly and you give them the opportunity to be authentic, to really have all the tools at their disposal to really do it right.
Yes.
The next year, which is going to be very difficult for salespeople, very difficult. I don't care what anyone says. It is going to be very difficult because shippers are getting into that. I've got this done now and I'm kind of have the least amount of problems. I add somebody new, it's going to be huge problems, right? Unless you have a relationship, that person goes somewhere and they say, hey, I know you can solve it and all that. But from a prospecting perspective, I think we're going into the next, I'm going to call it the next 12 to 16 months. I think are going to be some of the toughest for salespeople just getting into this industry. I really do, because you're new, right? So if I give my business to somebody new and it screws up, now I've just gotten through pulling my hair out for 24 to 36 months. Just gotten through. And now this new person who might have enticed me over here, and that's going to be the fear. I think it is a real thing that we're facing. Kind of like coming out of 2009. It was one of the most difficult years going into 2010 for sales because everybody had lost so much money. There was transportation costs were through the roof, and then they plummeted, and then they were doing all this, and it was like, capacity was at an all-time low where it was like, you're telling me you have capacity, but how do I really know you have, what I mean? That kind of stuff. So we're getting a little bit off topic, and I know we're running really late today, but that's the idea is you're helping people become that professional sooner than later. And I don't think it's a 10-year thing. I don't think it's a timeline as to become a professional. I think it's a matter of how much do you want to learn and how much are you willing to invest?
Desire.
Mm-hmm. That's really, time, not just money.
No, it's the desire. It's the love. It's like you love what you do, right? You wake up and you're pumped. It's like me. Every day it's not a chore. It's an adventure. Logistics is an adventure. Every day you're going on safari, and you have to have the right bullets in your gun in order to win. You really do. And how do you do that? Knowledge base, talking to other people, learning every single day. If you're not learning every single day, you're falling behind, man. Because the industry, the industry is changing every day. It's not the same animal as it was yesterday, and tomorrow it won't be either. So you have to just have your finger on the pulse today, and then it'll be on a different pulse tomorrow. But remember what you learned yesterday and carry it forward and keep on building that knowledge base. You're going to need it. You are going to need it. That's how fast the industry is changing, and that's what's going to be challenging for the next salespeople that come in. Look, you know what? I'm not the sales guy. I keep on saying it. I just came in, but I'm learning every single day and developing, and that's what everybody else has to do. The same thing. You're going to be left behind, man, real fast.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career